What, you know what? Just to be safe. Thing you did ended up saving your ass later? About 10 years ago, when I was married, my wife's best friend kept on flirting with me. One time when she was being super aggressive, I recorded it on my cell phone. A few months later, she accused me of saying to her the very things that she said to me. One listen from my wife to my phone completely exonerated me and shut her down completely. She was trying to ruin my marriage because hers was crappy. I was 19 and home for the summer from college. I had a contraband bottle of Bacardi stashed in my bedroom under a pile of clothes and other stuff between my bed and the window. My grandfather appears in a dream and sits me down with this bottle to chew me out. Not for having booze as a kid, but for hiding it so poorly. I wake up, a bit disturbed by this dream, and throw the bottle of Bacardi in a duffel bag and toss that in the trunk of my car as I leave for work. Get home that evening, and the pile it had been stashed under was moved as my mom had set up a table with a fan by the window to get air moving. Grew up in northern WE without AC. Wouldn't have been a fun rest of the summer had I been busted with that. This is the best ghost story I've ever heard. I was offered a job in Europe, where I was promised a bonus that was X% of my salary, paid twice a year. When the offer was sent, there was no mention of the bonus, and when I questioned why, I was told, "Don't worry, it's in this email with my official company signature." I put that one into the saved folder, just to be safe. Fast forward to moving. On the first payout period, I was told I needed to be with the company for 90 days first before a bonus would be paid. Okay, I was annoyed, but I guess that makes sense. On the second bonus payment, they mentioned that the company hadn't had a great year and nobody would be getting bonuses. More annoyed, but if the company isn't doing great, what are you going to do? I should add this was in 2008. The following year rolls around, and the company announces that things have really taken off, and they will pay out the previous bonus period, in addition to the current bonus period. Only problem is, I literally handed in my resignation that day. I inquire to find out if I'll be receiving my bonus from the previous bonus period, and they say, "Are you kidding? You just quit." I call a lawyer. I dig up the email from the start of this post, hand that over, and the lawyer says it's a slam dunk case. She goes after both bonus payments from the first year and both bonus payments from the current year, even though one of them hasn't happened yet. Company HQ calls me and tries to get me to drop it, and I refer them to my lawyer. A week later, at my new job, the lawyer informs me that they've paid all 4 bonus payments, and she also went after her own fees, so it cost me nothing. Glad I saved that email. Cover your ass, and do not let others push you around. If I've learned something from Reddit, it's sire, lawyer up, and hitting the gym never hurt no one. I was undergoing pilot training, and was pretty new to the whole thing, feeling the pressure to perform, etc. I walked out to pre-flight a plane for a solo flight. You do this completely alone. Instructor was back at flying school doing something else. After doing my walk around, it's time to check the oil. Cessna 172s have a dipstick that is attached to a cap that screws into the engine. You unscrew cap and remove dipstick along with it and check the oil. Except, after I unscrew the cap, there doesn't seem to be a dipstick attached to it. I have this thought, well, the engine is still warm from the dudes who just flew before me, so they flew it like this. Maybe they had a separate dipstick? They must have checked the oil then some other way. Then I have the well. To be safe, I should actually pack this up and go ask someone at the flight school exactly how to check the oil in this case. Note, this takes quite a chunk of time out of my supposed flight and will cut my lesson for the day short by quite a margin, but I do it anyway. Long story short, info gleaned from subsequent investigations, the dipstick had broken off during the previous flight that had landed just minutes before and had slid straight into the engine, where the crankcase had been chomping away metal from the tip, that metal now circulating in the engine. The aircraft was grounded, it was extremely dangerous to fly, and at massive cost had to be stripped down. The entire engine disassembled, and they actually had to find every bit of metal missing from the dipstick and reassemble the dipstick before plane could be reassembled and made flight worthy again. If, in a moment of stupidity, I'd taken off in that plane, I'd probably be dead. I had a car sitting on jack stands because I needed to do some transmission work. Before climbing under it, I thought it'd be a good idea to rock the car around. One of the jack stands was not in the right spot and the car slipped off it, slamming down on the front disc brakes. Would have killed me. I spent extra money on Kevlar motorcycle gloves, a lot more expensive, but 5 times more durable. When I later on crashed with my sports motorcycle, I slid the first stretch of meters on the palms of my hands and feet and knees before I started rolling etc. Kevlar is the way to go with all garments. I'm talking shirts, shorts, pants, jorts, jants, underwear, socks, jewelry, glasses, fucking braces, piercings, dentures. Can't go wrong. Edit. Whoa. Reddit silver. I've never been gilded before. I feel so special. Edit. Holy shit, gold. Flipped over my shoe and shook it, cause I had found a spider in it the night before, just to make sure. There was another spider in there. Australia. Edit. This is now my most upvoted comment by far. Got divorced 11 years ago from a horrible woman when my son was only 7 years old. Once I got my life together and settled and I tried to get him to visit me as often as I could. Due to work I had to live in a different state. Every single time I tried to make plans to fly him to see me or come see him, she would give me some horrible excuse about some medical thing he had, some event with school, or some emergency as to why he couldn't spend time with me. Or even sometimes she would just tell me to fuck off and straight up say no. She knew I didn't live in town and I wasn't just going to show up and see him, so that gave her some power. After the 9th or 10th time of that happening I said to myself, you know what, just to be safe I should keep record of all of this. So I made sure I saved every text message as well as every ML conversation between her and I. Over the years my son started to resent me thinking that I did not want to spend time with him. He became more distant, and I was not able to communicate to him what was actually happening. At the age of 15 or 16 he stopped talking to me because he said that his depression was due to me not wanting to see him. I couldn't explain anything to him at all, so I emailed him and apologized and let him have his space. Last year I was able to get through to him and convince him to let me come see him and spend the summer with me. I had legal visitation to do so and told him that he needed to tell his mother he wanted to spend the summer with me. She tried to come up with an excuse, but he was resilient in asking and told her it was his choice to spend his summer break with me. She wanted to seem like a good person, so she said yes finally. I drove 1100 miles to go pick him up and take the drive back with me to my state. I cleared it with child services, his mother, his grandparents, and everybody was okay with it. I was going to fly him back in 2 months when his break was over, a week before he started school again. On the drive back he expressed to me how upset he was with me about not being around in his life and not wanting to see him. We had a difficult conversation and I just let him tell me everything he was feeling. It was hard to hear, but I wanted to know where his headspace and his heart was. So when we stopped the first night at a hotel, I pulled out my laptop and told him I wanted to show him something. I knew it would hurt, but he had to know how much I cared about him and how hard his mother made it for me to see him. So I showed him every message and every email his mother had ever said to me about the lies she told that kept me from seeing him. I also showed him the legal documents from when I hired a lawyer to try to get custody of him and how difficult she made things. I showed him the communications between her and I and how downright mean she used to get to me when we communicated. I showed him the tweets from his now stepdad that was basically calling him a loser and saying how much he didn't like him. I showed him a part of his family that he had no idea existed. Immediately his attitude towards me changed. We spent the entire summer together and had the most amazing time rebuilding a relationship. He came to where I lived and saw the clean and responsible life that I lead and the hard work that I do to make a living. He started to realize that the life in the small town where he is at is very lacking and that his family there is toxic. The entire summer he spent with me, he had 0 bouts with depression and actually stopped taking his medication for it. His choice. He started to understand that his perceived depression was an environmental thing. As a thank you for coming to see me, I cancelled his flight home and gave him my old pickup truck as an early 18th birthday present and his first vehicle and drove it back to his home state with him when the summer was over. He graduates from high school this year and is going to be moving here where I live to do college. Thank God I saved all those messages. Edit. Thank you so much to all of you that have replied. I must not have had notifications turn on my phone cause I just opened Reddit now after posting that this morning and I'm flooded with responses in my first gold, silver and platinum. I will scan through and try to reply to as much as I can throughout the night. For anybody who is going through the same thing, all I can say is for the love of God document everything. Save every message. Save every email. Save every bit of history that you have with your child and their other parent. You never know when that could come useful. Thanks for watching. Leave a like and subscribe. Also, turn on the bell icon for future notifications.